Hello, DEF CON attendees. I am Bandito. I am part of the Blue Team Village's forensics crew, and I will be taking you all through Forensics 101 Part 1. We'll just cover the basics of what digital forensics is. The agenda is to go over the overview of what digital forensics is, then we'll shift over to data acquisition, the necessity and value that digital forensics bring to the table. Digital forensics has been defined in many ways, but one of the key parts of what digital forensics is a forensic science that's focused on the data stored electronically. Whereas prior with forensics, they focus on the evidences that you find within a crime scene in a physical sense. But with digital forensics, it's all within the electronic, such as computers and any other devices that store that digital data that can be used for information. The most fascinating thing about digital forensics or forensics in general is that it is both an art and science. Whereas the science are based off of the tools and methods, aka processes, the art is in the choice that you make, how you use the tool, and the interpretation of the results. Sometimes you can get to the same answer, but in different ways. However, through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, they have the four phases of the forensics process, as seen on the bottom right corner. So you have your collection, focusing on identifying, label, and acquiring from the media, which then, once you examine it, you are dealing with the data. The analysis will transform that into information, which then that information will be used to report that evidence that is brought to the table to those that you need to send it to. Now, I'd like to take a moment to go over the branches of digital forensics and how it has evolved over the years. When digital forensics was just, I would say, in its infancy or in the beginning stages, most of it dealt with computer, which is often associated with Windows. However, over the years, it has branched off into multiple areas, whereas network, mobile, Linux, and one of the more popular ones that are need a specialization these days tend to be Mac OS and cloud forensics, and of course, Internet of Things. But this just to show how diverse the field of digital forensics have become and why there's a need to specialize, because you won't be able to handle all of these branches by yourself. So NIST defines artifact as a piece of evidence. But to deconstruct this more, the artifact is the remnants of an event that's left behind. So generally the scene of the crime, there's like a cloth, whereas this one would be a file that was executed. That would be considered an artifact. And then the evidence is what is used to prove the existence of the fact. And there are various sources. You can get it from the PCAP data for the network, or even log file network log files. You can also grab it from memory, it's just memory dump, and generally the host log is another availability, and then the file execution. So there are a couple of terms you would hear, such as prefetch, shimcache, amcache, but those will be defined much later in the when in your lessons of digital forensics. Not in here though. So data acquisition. So why is data acquisition important? Data acquisition is collecting a copy to preserve evidence. You need to collect to be able to examine it. And to do that, generally is for imaging, which is generally bit by bit. And you can authenticate it with hashing, so making sure that it matches the what you took a copy of has to match the data that you took it from. And during the old days, which this is typically for more in law enforcement, but write blockers are generally used for preventing tampering during the acquisition. It's generally not used during incident response, but if you're working for court cases with law enforcement, write blockers are a lot more generally more valuable. And there's two types. There's the file system and memory. And then you got to take into the planning considerations of how you want to acquire the data. Do you want a dead system? Do you need it alive? Can you do it locally or do you have to be remote? Those are things you have to take in considerations when you start trying to acquire your data. So we'll go over the acquisition and analysis tools. So on the commercial side, you may have heard of Incase and FTK and Axiom Magnet. There are other organizations such as Belkasoft and Xways with commercial ones. But there's been more availability on the open source side with Cape, Zimmerman's tools in general, Autopsy. Now, I put Velociraptor in red just because it's specifically an analysis tool. It's not used for acquisition. So I want to highlight that piece. So we go over the necessity of digital forensics. Part of the reason that it's becoming more necessary is the rapid growth of technology and how it is integrated into everyone's daily lives. The recent examples that we have is the work from home and the associated risks that come with working from home. Where those risks are prevalent, there's also an opportunity for people to come into the field to be able to solve these challenges. There are several use cases. Generally digital forensics have been necessary to prove unauthorized access, misconduct, generally used for compliance and regulation. But I'd like to highlight a particular case called the Bohemia Carrigon case. This was involving 16 activists that were arrested and accused by the law enforcement officials. One notable person was Rona Wilson. This case was handled by Arsenal Consulting. They found that the evidence was planted on the user's device. The malware was used to access the device, and dozens of hidden folders were planted in their computer, including a letter that was a plot to assassinate the Modi. This is an important case to highlight because digital forensics is, in this case, was used to shine light on the abuse of the computer by a law enforcement in a country on an international scale. But for daily value behind digital forensics, It serves multiple purposes. For the role of general IT, it's good for root cause analysis. With root cause analysis, you can if you understand the system, sometimes it may not be a security issue. Sometimes it could just be an IT malfunction. So digital forensics can help with that troubleshooting. In terms of cyber defense, whereas on the right side you have the MITRE ATT&CK framework, this sort of digital forensics can help with information sharing because the artifacts that are found can highlight the TTPs that a threat actor is using, and that can be shared with the defense community. Now, for legal, digital forensics is prevalent in the line between innocence or guilty. This is where everything has to be factual and documented because this is going out to a court. And that's it for my portion of the lesson. Here are the references that I used to put this together. And thank you all for having me. All the questions and concerns can be taken to the representative. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Gail and I'm one of the volunteers for the Blue Team Village Project Obsidian. Welcome to the second presentation for our Forensics 101. This presentation will cover the following topics that are frequently asked by people who are interested in pursuing a career in digital forensics. First, it is common to ask who is part of a digital forensics team and who typically supports them. Second, what is expected of a digital forensic examiner? And third, what are the common career paths and training for this specialization? So let's look at the first topic. In the previous presentation, digital forensics as an activity was described. For this section, I'll cover who are the key players who regularly rely on digital forensics results and at the same time support the digital forensics examiner. One thing we need to clarify at this point is what e-discovery is. E-discovery is a type of digital investigation that focuses on finding evidence in email, business communications, and other data that could be used in civil or criminal litigation. The evidence could include data from email accounts, instant messages, online documents, databases, internal applications, digital images, website content, or any other electronic information that is required for litigation, whereas digital forensics is focused on identifying, preserving, collecting, analyzing, and reporting on digital information. Now, for other members of the security team, you have incident responders, and they are focused on responding and containing a security threat or attack. For deeper analysis into systems affected, incident responders will typically work with the digital forensic examiners who will then look into remnants of an event left in a system. The responders also benefit from the forensics finding that provide further evidence of system compromise. The security operations team typically focuses on preventing any attacks to an organization. The digital forensics team provides the necessary information that the security operations team can use to prevent attacks and do the initial triage for any security issues. Now, when digital forensic examiners find something suspicious or even a potentially malicious file, They would rely on malware and analysts and reverse engineers to unpack and understand the capabilities of this file. The malware analysis results will further help the digital forensics examiner find other evidence in the compromised system. Lastly, whatever is uncovered by the digital forensic examiners will also help the cyber threat intelligence team understand the capabilities of their organization's attacker. Conversely, the cyber threat intelligence team can also provide threat information that can help the digital forensics team focus their resources on certain aspects of their investigation. So, these are the different members in a greater cybersecurity team who rely and work with the digital forensics team. Let's now look at what are the typical things that are expected from the digital forensics team. The first set of expected output from a forensics analysis is a report. It is good practice that while you are doing your digital forensics analysis, you are taking good and clear notes. This will help you when you start preparing what you need to put in your report. It's possible that your report will cover one system or even more. As the digital forensic examiner, you need to look at the artifacts you are analyzing and try to put together what the evidence shows. It's like trying to paint a picture from several data points, and you need to provide a story of what, how, and why a security incident happened. It is possible that as part of the incident, a digital forensics examiner may be asked to provide expert witness testimonies in court cases based on the report or findings. Part of the responsibilities of a digital forensics examiner is the maintenance of the chain of custody for all evidence. The evidence needs to be organized, and the digital forensics tools and methods used to analyze the evidence must be valid and reliable. The digital forensic examiner must be able to test, interpret, quantify, and communicate any findings via presentation and must be able to respond credibly to questions that are posed by legal counsel. Whenever there is a legal requirement that requires disclosure of an attack or data breach that is attributed to a criminal group, an organization will need to notify the relevant government, regulatory, or even law enforcement agencies. Digital forensic examiners are responsible for conducting knowledge and information sharing and receiving of such information from law enforcement agencies to use in their own digital forensics investigations. Now let's look at the third topic for this presentation, which is about career paths and training. You're probably watching this presentation because you are interested in pursuing a career as a digital forensics examiner. So where do most digital forensic examiners start their career? Most of us started with a career in information technology or IT. There are some who may have done work as a system administrator or even started as part of a security operations team. There are others who were previously law enforcement officials and who got interested in focusing in digital forensics. Where can you find digital forensic examiners? Some of us may be practicing in the private industry as part of a company's internal digital forensics team. Others work in consulting firms, while others may be working specifically for law firms. In the public sector, a lot of us are working in intelligence agencies, federal, state, or city government units. Now, here's a list of training opportunities for people who are thinking of specializing in digital forensics. This list has a lot of affordable and even free learning opportunities. Please feel free to take a photo or a screenshot of this slide. Towards the end of this presentation, I also listed the different references for this presentation, and I highly encourage you to also take a photo of that. Okay, so make sure that you use this time to take a photo of this and or screenshot if you're watching this online. Okay, so did you already get your photo or screenshot? Awesome, got it. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. In terms of digital forensics, the SANS Institute has its own category because of the diversity of the training they offer. This slide only shows some of the training options in terms of digital forensics, but SANS have a lot more. Feel free to go to their website to check out their other digital forensics classes. In terms of training fees, they're more on the higher side and would require corporate or government sponsorship to receive training. It's always good to practice blue team related activities. Here's a list of cyber ranges that you can check out in order to improve your skill set. Some do not require a setup, while others require some setup. So once again, feel free to take a photo of this or a screenshot so that you could visit their websites or search them in Google so that you can start practicing in the cyber ranges. Okay, so you've already taken your photos or your screenshot. Awesome. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. Now, this is the list of the reference materials that I was telling you about. So once again, feel free to take a photo of this or a screenshot. So these are the resources that we've consulted and even listed in the previous slides. Okay, so make sure that you take this. Okay, take a photo or a screenshot. Okay, so I think you're done now. So lastly, there is another way you can start on picking up on your digital forensic skills. Listen to our Blue Team Village presentations, work on the Project Obsidian challenges, and even consider joining our community. Join the conversation in our Discord server and learn from others there. May this presentation answer your common questions, and we hope it inspired you to consider a career in the digital forensics area, or perhaps even other blue team or the defensive sides of cybersecurity. Please take care there and may you enjoy the rest of the conference.